My wife took the stage like a queen and looked at me like a prop. When she reached for my arm, it wasn't affection. It was ownership, in front of everyone who mattered to her. The Waldorf Astoria smelled like money and orchids, like somebody had sprayed success into the air and charged admission. Cameras floated through the crowd the way sharks do. Smooth, patient, hungry for blood in a tailored suit. Everyone here was polished. Everyone had a brand. I didn't. Not on purpose. Plain charcoal suit. White shirt. No flash. I came as the quiet husband, the support staff with a wedding ring. The kind of man who stands 2 steps behind the star and claps at the right moments. Vanessa Hale didn't clap. She collected claps. She stood near the center of the room with a glass of champagne and the posture of someone who'd never had to ask twice. Black dress, clean lines, the kind of look that said she owned every reflection in the marble. When she smiled, people leaned in. When she laughed, people repeated it like it was theirs. When she saw me, her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You made it," she said, like I'd arrived late to my own obligation. "I said I would," I replied. Her gaze flicked over my suit, quick and clinical, like an investor scanning a weak deck. "Good. Just stay close. Don't wander." I didn't miss the implication. "You're a risk." A man from finance, one of her board types, shook my hand and gave me the practiced grin. "So you're the husband. Vanessa says you keep things grounded." Vanessa sipped her champagne. "He tries." It landed light enough for strangers to laugh. Heavy enough for me to feel it in my ribs. I watched the room instead of her. Old habit. You learn a lot when you stop talking. People here weren't celebrating a partnership. They were celebrating access. Every handshake had a price tag. Every compliment came with a hook. Vanessa moved through it like she was born in it. And every time I stepped within arm's reach, her body angled away, shoulders turning, feet repositioning. Small signals that said, "Not him. Not tonight. Not in front of them." At one point I leaned in and said, "Lo, you okay?" Her eyes stayed on a venture guy with expensive teeth. "I'm fine. Just don't do that." "Do what?" "Look like you need me." She finally faced me, and for a second the mask slipped. "This is important." I held her gaze. "I'm here to support you." "Then support," she said. Silently, a ripple moved through the room. Someone clinking a glass, a coordinator in an earpiece, the subtle shift of attention toward the stage. The night's climax was coming. Her moment, her spotlight, the thing she'd been chasing for months. Vanessa's hand closed around my wrist. Not gentle, not loving, firm like a decision. "Come on," she said, already pulling me forward. "They'll love this." I looked at the stage, then at the faces turning. Investors, press, power, and my wife smiling like she'd just found a new way to win. Something in me went quiet. Not fear, not anger, just the clean understanding that she was about to spend time with me in public. And she didn't even consider the cost. The lights hit hard up there, white and hot, designed to bleach out flaws and make legends. Vanessa took the center like it belonged to her, the way she always did. She didn't glance at the teleprompter. She didn't need it. Her hand stayed on my arm as if I were a trophy she'd earned, not a person. She pulled me into position beside her, close enough for the cameras to frame us as a unit. "We weren't. Tonight," she began, voice smooth as expensive silk. "We celebrate a partnership that's going to change the market." Applause rolled in on cue. She let it crest, then lifted her chin, soaking in the sound like it was fuel. "And of course," she said, turning slightly toward me, "none of this would be possible without the people who support us behind the scenes." A warm setup, a classic. The crowd softened. They expected a gracious mention, maybe a little romance, a photo op. Vanessa smiled wider. "This is my husband," she announced. "He's an engineer." Polite laughter. Engineers were safe. Engineers were background. I saw a few heads tilt. "Oh, that's him," Vanessa continued. "He's very good at keeping things running." More laughter. A few claps. She looked at me like she'd just thrown me a bone. I kept my face neutral. I let my eyes move slowly across the front tables. Titans people, the partners, the press row. I didn't search for approval. I just mapped the room. Vanessa leaned in, her smile frozen. "Wave," she whispered through her teeth. I lifted a hand. Minimal, controlled. The kind of wave you give when you're not performing. Her eyes narrowed for half a second. Then she turned back to the mic. "You know, it's funny," she said. "People assume that because he builds things, he understands vision." The crowd laughed again, louder. This time it wasn't polite. This time they were being invited. She paced a step, heels clicking like punctuation. "But vision isn't about bolts and blueprints, right? It's about seeing the future, creating something out of nothing." She gestured to herself, not subtle. Then she pointed the mic toward me like she was offering me a chance to speak. Cameras leaned in. Faces brightened. A little husband moment. "What do you do again?" she asked, loud enough to make it cute. I looked at her, then at the crowd. "I solve problems," I said. It wasn't a joke. I didn't dress it up. I didn't play along. A few people chuckled anyway, because they didn't know what else to do. Vanessa's smile tightened. She recovered fast, but I saw the flash of irritation, like I'd scratched her paint. "Oh, he's modest," she said. "He works in a very specialized corner. Mostly invisible, but it keeps him busy." She laughed at her own line. The room followed because the room always followed. Her voice warmed, sweetened. And I love that about him. The simplicity. Simplicity. The word landed like a slap dressed as a compliment. She stepped closer, hands sliding down my arm, then off, discarding contact the way you discard a receipt. She addressed the crowd again, building herself up with each sentence. Visionary, founder, trailblazer, the woman who dragged a company into relevance by sheer force. And then she circled back to me, eyes glittering. "Honestly," she said, "sometimes I think I've outgrown the—" She paused, playful, a deliberate pause. She let the room lean forward. "The constraints," she finished, smiling like she'd said something brave. The laugh that followed wasn't kind. I was hungry. Vanessa reached for the champagne flute a staffer offered from the edge of the stage. She held it up like a toast. "To grow," she said, "to evolution, and to not letting dead weight hold you back." That one hit differently. You could feel it. A few people shifted in their chairs. A couple of smiles faltered. Someone in the press row stopped typing. Vanessa turned to me with a bright, cruel cheer. "You're okay, right?" I looked at her. I didn't blink. I didn't give her the reaction she wanted. "I'm fine," I said. She laughed. Sharp. "Good." And then she did it. Like the moment had been rehearsed in her head all day. She tipped the flute. Cold champagne slid down the front of my shirt, soaking the white fabric, darkening it fast. It ran over my collarbone and into the chest of my suit like a stain trying to become permanent. The room made a sound, half gasp, half nervous laughter that didn't know where to go. Vanessa's face lit up. She expected collapse, rage, a scene. Anything that made her the powerful one and me the weak one. I didn't move. I looked at the crowd, then back at her, and I smiled once. Small, calm, almost polite. Not forgiveness. Acknowledgement. Then I stepped away from her, took one careful step down, then another, and walked off the stage like I had somewhere real to be. Behind me, the laughter died mid-breath. The silence wasn't dramatic. It was worse. It was the sound of a room realizing they just watched something break, and they weren't sure which of us was bleeding. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The power had already shifted. She just hadn't felt it yet. The revolving doors exhaled me onto Park Avenue like I'd been spit out. Cold air hit my wet shirt. My suit jacket clung to my ribs, heavy with champagne. Behind me, through the glass, I could still see the stage lights and the glittering crowd. People who'd pretend they didn't enjoy what they witnessed. The curb was lined with valets and black cars and men with earpieces pretending they weren't. Normally, I'd have lifted a hand and waited for whatever modest sedan I'd arrived in. I didn't lift a hand. A black Cadillac idled one car length down, windows tinted, paint so clean it looked unreal under the street lamps. The driver's door opened before I reached it. Marcus Bell stepped out, tall, calm, suit cut sharp, eyes steady. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't look at the champagne stain like it mattered. He just said, "Do you want the back seat or the front?" That question told me everything. He'd seen the feed. He'd been waiting. This wasn't reactive. It was scheduled. "Back," I said. He nodded once and opened the rear door. The inside smelled like leather and quiet. I sat, felt the warmth of the cabin, and let the city noise get sealed out behind glass. Marcus closed the door gently, like this was a library, not a getaway. He slid into the driver's seat. "Where to?" I pulled my phone out, thumbed one contact. No name, just a number I didn't dial unless it was time. It rang once. A voice answered, low and awake. "Yes, it's done," I said. A pause. Not surprising. Confirmation. Understood. Initiating sequence. "That's all," I replied and ended the call. Marcus watched me in the mirror, just enough to check for instructions. "Take me to the tower," I said. His eyes didn't widen. He didn't ask what tower. "Copy," he said, and eased the Cadillac into traffic like we owned the lane. As we moved, my phone buzzed. Silent notifications stacking like dominoes tipped. Names, departments, green check marks, timestamps. Vanessa had just poured champagne down the wrong man in the wrong room. And she still thought I was the guy in the plain suit. The elevator didn't have buttons you could read from the lobby. Marcus got us through a private entrance, past a doorman who didn't ask questions, into a service corridor that smelled like stone and money kept quiet. Keycard, a biometric pad, a soft chime. The doors slid open like they'd been holding their breath. Top floor. Grayson Holdings didn't advertise. No sign outside. No website meant for the public. The kind of place that didn't chase deals. Deals came here when they ran out of places to hide. The office was dark except for the glow of screens. A wall of monitors showed the Waldorf Ballroom from 3 angles. Wide crowd shot, stage close-up, and a clipped social feed already replaying the champagne moment in a loop. The room was calm anyway. Nobody flinched. Nobody gossiped. They watched like analysts. Rebecca Shaw stood at the long table with a tablet in her hands. Hair pinned back, expression clean. She didn't ask if I'd had a rough night. She just said, "Welcome back." "Status," I said. "Ready," she replied. One word. That was our language. Around the table, my inner circle. Caleb Jensen, legal counsel, sleeves rolled, calm eyes that didn't waste motion. Diane Porter, acquisitions, sharp suit, sharper focus. Miles Chen, financial strategist, already surrounded by graphs and timelines like he'd been building the night in code. And Sam Carter, my oldest friend, standing slightly apart because he didn't need to prove he belonged. Sam nodded once. "You good?" "I'm here," I said. It was enough. Rebecca slid a folder toward me. Safeguards confirmed. No layoffs triggered tonight. No payroll interruptions. Messaging isolates leadership conduct and governance concerns only. I opened the folder without looking at her. "And Titan?" Diane answered. "Titan Developments is positioned. Sam is ready as a public face. Paperwork prepped. Withdrawal language reviewed by legal." Caleb tapped the table once. "Clean. Defensible. Not emotional." "That's the point," I said. On the monitors, Vanessa smiled into the crowd like nothing could touch her, like she hadn't just tried to break her own husband for sport. Miles spoke, eyes on the numbers. "Sequence is staged. Withdrawal hits first. Credit tightening follows. Board pressure within hours." I watched Vanessa's face in high definition and felt nothing soften. "Proceed," I said. Rebecca's fingers moved. The room answered like a machine. And somewhere below us, in chandeliers and marble, my wife kept thinking she was the one holding the microphone. On the main monitor, the Waldorf Ballroom looked like a jewelry box. Gold light, white tablecloths, faces tilted up toward Vanessa like she was a promise. Then the Titan team moved. 3 people in dark suits cut through the crowd with purpose. Not rushed, Not dramatic, just direct, like they had a flight to catch and she wasn't the weather. Sam was with them, one step behind, visible enough to be recognized, calm enough to be believed. Vanessa spotted them late. You could see it, the fraction of a second where her eyes flicked and recalculated. She leaned toward the Titan lead, a smile still glued on, like she could charm her way through a fire alarm. The Titan lead didn't offer a handshake. He offered a folder. Caleb's voice was quiet beside me. Termination notice and withdrawal letter. Delivered before execution. Clean the window. On screen, Vanessa laughed. Too bright. Then her mouth stopped moving while she read. Her posture stiffened. Her shoulders rose like she'd just been slapped. But her face tried to keep the mask. She looked toward the press row. Bad instinct. Cameras love panic. Phone rang. Then another. The ballroom's attention shifted, like a flock changing direction. People didn't stand. Not yet. They just stopped clapping. Stopped smiling. Stopped treating her like the center of gravity. Miles slid a tablet toward me. Social spike. Clip count accelerating. The champagne video, her pouring it down my chest, was already circulating with captions that weren't flattering. Not romantic. Not power couple. More like, CEO humiliates husband on stage. More like, leadership culture ? Rebecca spoke without emotion. Press language goes live now. Titan is committed to ethical leadership and respectful workplace culture. After reviewing recent conduct and governance concerns, Titan has chosen to pause partnership discussions. Pause, I said. Strategic word, Diane replied. It sounds measured. It implies there's more we could say. On screen, Vanessa tried to pivot. She gestured, pulled her mic closer, leaned into her voice like it could command reality back into place. But the crowd wasn't hers anymore. They were watching her like a headline forming. Sam didn't raise his voice. He didn't perform. He just spoke to her briefly, nodded once, and stepped back. Publicly final. Vanessa's smile slipped again, sharper this time. Her eyes scanned faces, searching for allies, and found calculations instead. Miles tapped another chart. Credit lines tighten within 30 minutes. Board chatter is already active. We'll see volatility pre-market. I watched Vanessa blink hard. Once, like she was trying to clear something from her vision. She still thought she could bully it, spin it, crush it. She didn't understand the difference between a room that applauds you and a system that decides you're a liability. The monitors kept rolling, and the deal, her legacy, died right there on camera, in the same marble-lit crowd she'd used as a weapon. I didn't go back to the penthouse. That place was hers, her view, her furniture, her light. Even when I slept there, it felt like visiting someone else's life. Marcus drove while the city dissolved behind tinted glass. By the time the first calls came in, I was already out of Manhattan. Vanessa's name lit up my screen. Then again. Then again. I didn't answer. Voicemail 1 was sharp and fast. The tone she used on people she thought she owned. By the fourth, the edge cracked. "What did you do?" she hissed, like the world had betrayed her instead of simply reacting. By midnight, the messages changed shape. Shorter, unsteady. "Call me. Now." At 2:11 a.m., her voice went quiet in a way I'd never heard from her. "Please, I need you." It wasn't love. It was gravity. It was the feeling of losing altitude with no ground in sight. In the tower, my team worked without noise. Rebecca filtered inbound media requests and killed anything that sniffed like a witch hunt. Caleb reviewed language to keep it surgical. Diane positioned acquisition options like chess pieces. Miles tracked the numbers like a pulse. On a muted monitor, business media looped the champagne clip. My shirt darkening, the crowd reacting, Vanessa smiling like it was cute. They weren't calling it cute anymore. Analysts didn't talk about my face. They talked about hers. They talked about temperament, leadership culture, reputational exposure. They talked about how fast partners run when they smell governance risk. Vanessa thought she was untouchable because she'd never been held accountable in public. Now the public was holding her like a specimen. Near dawn, Marcus turned onto a quieter road. Trees. Space. The kind of darkness Manhattan never allows. The Greenwich house sat back from the street, hidden by clean landscaping and deliberate distance. Vanessa barely came here. She'd called it too quiet. Like peace was an insult. For me, it was base. Systems lived here. Records. Safes. Redundancies. The things you keep when you don't trust the surface life you're forced to maintain. I stepped inside and the house felt like it exhaled. Cool air, stillness, order. I peeled off the damp shirt and left it on the tile like a discarded costume. My phone buzzed again. Vanessa. A new voicemail. "I'm sorry," she said. And you could hear her trying to make the word believable. "Just please. I'm scared." I listened once. Then I deleted it. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. Because if she'd meant it when it mattered, I wouldn't be hearing it now. Greenwich mornings don't announce themselves. No sirens. No horns. Just pale light and quiet that forces you to hear what you've been avoiding. Rebecca arrived at 7:06 a.m., already composed, hair tight, tablet in hand. She didn't bring coffee. She brought weight. "Full sweep came back overnight," she said, stepping into the study like it was a control room. "Not just optics. Not just Titan." She set a folder on my desk thick, labeled in clean block print. Inside were spreadsheets, invoices, screenshots, timelines. Not gossip. Not suspicion. Receipts. Diane was the speaker. Miles too. Caleb listened without interrupting. Rebecca opened the folder and pointed, precise. Company numbers were being inflated. Revenue recognition pulled forward. Expenses pushed out. Vendor contracts routed through shell consultancies. "Whose?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "Vanessa's control chain. 2 assistants. 1 external accountant. We have signatures." I flipped a page. Luxury charges coded as client development. Private flights. Jewelry. Hotel suites that weren't business. A pattern of indulgence hidden under corporate language. Not one mistake. A system. Rebecca kept going. Personal spending pushed through corporate accounts is one piece. The other is leverage. She needed the Titan partnership to stabilize the story she'd built. I stared at the numbers until they stopped being numbers and became a personality. Hungry, reckless, convinced consequences were for other people. "And the worst?" I asked. Rebecca's eyes held mine. Calm but not soft. "Jordan Mercer." The name landed clean. Mercer, competing CEO, public friend, smiling rival. The kind of man who shook your hand hard and looked you in the eye like it meant something. Rebecca slid a printed timeline forward. Meetings for months. Private dinners. 2 out-of-town conferences with no conference registration. We pulled location pings from her work devices and corroborated them with security logs. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. This wasn't about sex. It was about contempt made physical. About a woman who treated vows like PR and loyalty like a negotiable expense. I closed the folder slowly, palms flat on the cover. Caleb's voice came through the speaker, measured. "This changes the separation posture. Also exposes criminal and civil risk for her company. Protect the employees," I said. "Anyone not involved stays insulated." "Understood," Diane replied. Rebecca waited. I looked out at the trees beyond the glass, still indifferent. "It's not a lesson anymore," I said. Rebecca nodded once. "It's an exit." "Exactly," I replied. "Now we finish it." The security camera feed popped onto my screen mid-morning. Vanessa at the front gate. Hair undone, coat thrown on wrong, makeup trying and failing to hide the night. She looked smaller without the ballroom lights. Not weaker, just exposed. She hit the intercom like she could force it to obey her. "Open the gate." Silence answered her. She tried again. "This is my house too." I watched her wait, pacing in a place like the cold could be negotiated away. Rebecca stood near the door inside, tablet at her side. "Do you want her in?" "Yes," I said. "1 entrance. 1 exit." Rebecca tapped her screen. The gate unlocked. Vanessa drove up fast, tires crunching gravel like she was angry at the ground. She stormed to the front door and didn't knock. She shoved it open the moment the lock was released, like boundaries were a personal insult. The study was warm, quiet, orderly. She stepped into it like she'd entered a courtroom she didn't believe existed. There were no photos of us on the shelves, no framed gala shots, no curated couple life, just books, files, and a view of trees. Her eyes snapped to me behind the desk. What the hell is happening? I didn't stand. I didn't offer water. I didn't move to soften anything. What it looks like, I said. She laughed high, brittle. No, don't do that calm thing. Don't act like you're above this. Titan can't just... She cut herself off, eyes flashing. You did this. I held her gaze. You did this. She stepped closer, hands shaking with rage she was trying to disguise as authority. Last night was a joke. I was playing. Everyone was laughing. Not everyone, I said. Her mouth opened, then closed. She searched my face for the old response. Hurt, pleading, something she could twist into control. It wasn't there. I've been calling you all night, she said, voice dropping. You ignored me. I heard you, I replied. I chose not to answer. Her eyes widened, offended by the idea of choice existing outside her. Stop this, she demanded. Whatever you did, reverse it. Call them. Fix it. Fix what? I asked. Your partnership? Your reputation? Your behavior? Her jaw clenched. Don't turn this into a morality lecture. I slid a folder forward, not all of it, just enough. Then don't turn my life into your stage. She didn't touch the folder. She stared at it like paper could bite. You think you're going to punish me? She said, voice cracking at the edges. Because I embarrassed you? I leaned back slightly. It wasn't embarrassing. It was disrespectful. She scoffed. Oh my God. I let the silence sit long enough for her to hear herself. Then I said the thing that ended her last illusion. Grayson Holdings is the parent structure behind Titan. The words were simple. They didn't need drama. Her face went still, like her brain refused to accept it. No, she said, almost whispering. That's not Titan is. Titan answers upward, I replied. It always has. She looked around the room like the walls might contradict me, like she might find the old version of me hiding behind a lamp. This, she said slowly, this is why you never cared about my meetings. Why you never. Why do I let you talk? I corrected. Her breathing changed. Faster. The first real fear, not for the deal, fear for herself. Why? She asked, and for the first time it wasn't a command. It was confusing. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at her, steady. Because you didn't ask. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a prop. Her eyes flashed again, but it didn't have the old power. I built everything I have. No, I said. You built a story. She lurched forward, hands gripping the edge of my desk. I can fix this. I can make statements. I can. I slid another page out, separate from the first folder. A timeline. One name circled. Jordan Mercer, I said. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost clean. She tried to blink it away. What are you talking about? Don't, I said. One word. Flat. Don't insult me again. Her throat worked. She looked away, then back, eyes glossy but furious. It wasn't business. I finished for her. Ambition. She didn't answer. And that was the answer. I stood then, not to intimidate, just to end the posture of negotiation. This isn't about vision, I said. It's about character. Vanessa's shoulders sagged like the fight had finally run into reality. What do you want? She whispered. I looked at her the way you look at a door you're done walking through. I want you to leave, I said. And I want you to understand why you're leaving. She swallowed hard. For the first time in a long time, she saw me. Not the quiet husband in the plain suit. The man she'd been standing on. And the man who'd just stepped aside. I didn't keep her standing there long. Not because I felt mercy. Because I wasn't interested in watching her perform regretfully. I sat back down and pulled a second folder from the desk drawer, thin, clean, final. I placed it in front of her and turned it so she could read the first page. Vanessa Hale, petition for dissolution. Her eyes moved over the letters like they were written in a foreign language. You're serious? I've been serious, I said. She looked up, searching for the old crack in me. We can talk about this. We can go to counseling. We can. No, I cut in calm. You can talk. I'm done. Her lips parted, offended by how easily I said it. I tapped the pages once. Here's what you keep. She stared, then read. The prenup stands, I continued. You keep your personal accounts that predate the marriage. Your equity in Hale Ventures remains yours. What's left of it after the auditors and the board do what they're going to do. You keep your personal property listed in Schedule B. You walk out of here with a car, your jewelry that wasn't bought through corporate accounts, and whatever dignity you can salvage. Her voice went thin. And what do I lose? I held her gaze. Me. She flinched like the word had weight. You also lose access, I added, to Grayson, to Titan, to any structure you thought you could lean on. Vanessa's hands shook as she turned pages. You set me up. I didn't react. You poured champagne on me in front of investors and cameras. You inflated numbers to keep your story alive. You met Jordan Mercer while you came home to me and acted like loyalty was optional. Her jaw tightened. You don't know. I know enough, I said. And I don't need more. She swallowed hard, eyes wet now, but the tears didn't move me. Tears weren't proof of character. They were proof of pressure. I loved you, she whispered. I didn't argue with her. I didn't validate it either. I just said, you loved what I provided. Silence sat between us like a locked door. Finally, she lowered herself into the chair across from me, picked up the pen, and hesitated with the tip hovering over the signature line. Her breathing hitched once. Sign, I said, not harsh, not gentle, certain. She signed. The moment the pen left the paper, something in her face collapsed. Not a breakdown, just the realization that the old tactics were dead. She stood slowly, like gravity had changed. At the door, she paused. Are you going to destroy me? I looked up from the documents. No. Hope flickered in her eyes. I didn't feed it. I'm going to let the consequences catch up to you, I said. That's not destruction. That's reality. She left without another word. The door closed soft, like the house respected itself. Rebecca stepped in a minute later. She's gone. Good, I said. Next steps. Rebecca opened her tablet. Hale Ventures. Board contacted. Independent review initiated. We have language ready that separates employee welfare from executive conduct. We're protecting staff and vendors where possible. Do it, I said. No collateral damage unless it's unavoidable. Anyone who didn't help her cheat doesn't pay for her choices. On the monitor, a business channel ran a clean headline about leadership values and governance concerns. Another outlet teased a profile. A quiet player behind Titan, a private firm called Grayson Holdings, a man nobody had bothered to photograph until the champagne clip made him interesting. They'd learn my name soon enough, but I didn't need the world to clap. I'd built foundations, not noise. My phone lit up once more. Vanessa, final message. I didn't open it. I didn't delete it right away either. I just set the phone face down on the desk and went back to work. Because the chapter was closed, and I wasn't turning the page to look back.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.